Good morning, friends. I am not an expert in Sanskrit. Learned a little bit during my school days in Vijayawada. That's the only thing that I know. Yes, I am a metallurgist, definitely, because I started my life with a diploma in metallurgy in Vijayawada Polytechnic. That is where I started my life. Government Polytechnic Vijayawada. I learned metallurgy. But I studied in a school which is called Sisividya Mandiram in Vijayawada, where the roots of my interest in Vedic sciences have been seeded, because we used to have every day a period, a class called Puja. And almost the 18 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, we as a school children, we have by hearted almost every astakas, variety of those I was able to learn those days. And the interest in Indian heritage has grown from those days. Then I moved from Vijayawada Polytechnic to do a B.Tech in metallurgy in a place called Nagpur, REC Nagpur, which is now called NIT Nagpur. Like we have NIT Warangal, there is one NIT in Nagpur. Then I went to Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, did my master's and PhD in metallurgy, all through everything in metallurgy. And then joined IIT Kharagpur, the oldest IIT, in 1992, and worked there as a professor for about 12 years. Moved to IIT Madras to come close to my parents who used to live in Vijayawada, because Kharagpur was very far. And then 15 years I lived there. That's where I met one Sanskrit scholar who used to tell me that in every scripture there are so much aspects of scientific knowledge hidden, and it all depends on the way you look at it. And he used to tell me that every Sanskrit word can have different meanings depending on the context you look at it. It can have a spiritual meaning, it can have a scientific meaning, it can have different other meanings. And then I got interested. 2000, more or less 2004 I joined IIT Madras. Within 1 year I met him. Then 10 years from there, almost 2015. In fact, when there was a previous vice chancellor of this university, 2014 or so, I came here. We were talking about Rasa Shastra. So my interest was to see if we can actually implement it. See, many a times about all this, the so-called foreigners always say, where are the proofs? You talk a lot, but you don't prove anything. Is something that typically the so-called contemporary scientists from overseas always ask. So we wanted to do experiments in our lab and prove that this is something which all our ancient great Mahatmas have actually experimented and demonstrated, which somehow we have lost over the years and hundreds of years, and the close to 500 years of slavery that we went through. I think we have actually lost self-esteem, I would say. We have lost confidence in ourselves. There is a Greek saying which says, you are what you think you are. If you think you are small, you will forever remain to be small. If you think you are big, there is at least a chance for you to become big. I always tell my students and colleagues, there is a huge tree inside every seed. We should see that tree inside that seed. When you see that and nurture it, then automatically one day it becomes. And that is something that I thought through our research I'm a microscopist and look at atoms in microscope. In fact, I used to bring even school children to show. We have huge microscopes. For example, right now at IIT Hyderabad, we have recently purchased a microscope which costed 27 crores. 27 crores one microscope, where you can see atoms in 3 dimensions inside a material. For example, if you say a steel composed of iron and carbon. I want to see where is carbon sitting inside a piece of, let's say if this is a steel rod, where is carbon sitting, where is iron sitting? If I want to see it, this kind of microscopes can show. And there are only 3 such pieces of that microscope in the whole world. The 4th piece is now sitting at IIT Hyderabad. Okay? And I wanted to bring students and tell them that it is not that everything on the other side is great. Similar great things we can also do it here. You don't need to always think, just run away to a place like that and settle down there and think that this life here is better than in India. This is typically what many of my friends keep talking about who got settled there. And I say that there is a lot to learn here, provided we come together. I always saw that there is a significant wall between people like you, with all due respect, and people like us. First of all, the way we dress is different and the way we possibly think also is different. You look at Vedas from a different perspective possibly. I was just asking Murthy Garu that I would like to meet all those who want to look at Vedas only from a scientific perspective rather than any other perspective. That is something, for example, I have 600 undergraduate students, BTech students I admit at IIT Hyderabad every year. We have total of 4,800 students at IIT Hyderabad, out of which 1,400 students are PhD students and about 1,400 students are master students and the remaining 2,000 students are undergraduate students. Many of them think always that on the other side of the world, they are much greater than us. And it is important for all of us to inculcate a feeling in all these students that there is something really great on this side, this part of the world. And that you have to demonstrate not through just scriptures alone, but the scriptures brought to a lab and demonstrated in a lab. And that's how I have taken it up at IIT Madras with this friend of mine. And for about 10 years, we did a lot of experiments. I am one of those who are called as nanotechnologists. Okay, work on nanotechnology, nanoparticles, how nanoparticles can have significantly better properties than general metals and alloys is something that was my field of research all through. And with this friend of mine, we were able to make nanoparticles from the shlokas from certain scriptures. He used to say that if I can translate this shloka in a proper perspective, it will give you a complete formula of how to make a particular alloy. And we used to do those experiments on our lab and were writing papers, publishing in the journals in which every modern scientist from Australia or America used to publish. And that gave me confidence that I can see it from my own eyes that we can do this. And with that confidence, when I moved to IIT Hyderabad, I thought, let us do a bigger experiment of trying to inculcate this knowledge into the students. For example, when I was an undergraduate metallurgy student, I heard that steel was first made by somebody called Bessemer in London, in UK. I did not know until much later that steel was first made in the borders of Andhra and Karnataka. And it was called ukku. In Telugu, steel is called ukku. In Tamil, people call it yak. Okay? And that steel, which was made 2000 years back, much before the great-grandfather of this Bessemer was possibly even born, was so strong that it could cut a helmet into two pieces. Alexander the Great was supposed to have used that steel which has originated from India. People did not know how to pronounce this word called ukku. They started calling it as woods. Nowadays, everything we talk in terms of Google. If you go to Google and put WOOTZ, woods, you will see enormous literature on this particular steel that was made in India. And what is more interesting as a metallurgist is that wood steel, which the samurais of Japan have used, Alexander the Great has used, and so many other warriors have used, and it was used as a sword which can cut anything, so strong. And what is interesting is, in metallurgy, if something is very strong, it is not ductile, it is brittle. Strength and brittleness always go together. For example, if you take a coffee cup, you throw it on the floor, it breaks. It is not deformable. It is not malleable. It is strong. But strength and ductility never go together. Strength and malleability never go together to a large extent. But what is interesting is this particular steel, which had almost 1.4% carbon. In metallurgy, we know a steel, if it has more carbon, it is more brittle. More strong, but at the same time more brittle. But to make a sword, somebody has to make a plate, hammer it, and make it into a thin sheet. Sword is nothing but like a thin sheet which is used to cut something. And if you hammer something which is brittle, take a ceramic cup, hammer it, it breaks. It does not deform. What kind of a technology our people had that they were able to take such a hard steel but still were able to deform. We struggle now in 2023-24 to make such steels. Oxford and Cambridge, there are so many professors who have taken up this research to make exactly the same steel, which is called the wood steel, which was made 2000 or 2500 years back in India, and replicate it in their laboratories. They were not very successful. And all this knowledge has just vanished, gone with the wind kind of. Possibly we never had seminars like this those days, maybe, I do not know. And transfer of knowledge possibly did not happen. Putting that in the form of books, possibly, whatever may be the reasons, I cannot go back. Or it was all there, but our friends who have come from outside, okay, must have kind of burned them away. I do not know. Okay. But what the fact remains is this has become a knowledge where we boast about, but something which is not being implemented now. And what is more interesting is, as a nanotechnologist, somebody took a piece of this steel from a museum. Nowadays it's only available in museums, nowhere else. Nobody knows how to make this steel of that strength with that same composition. Measuring the composition of the steel piece which is there in museum is not very difficult. We have all the technology available. We have machines available which are called spectroscopes. Okay, I can measure the composition. But just being able to measure the composition does not make me capable enough to make such a similar alloy with similar properties. Because the technology possibly was lost. Somebody took a piece of that and put it into a microscopes like what I handle, where you can see at a very small scale, at the nanometric level. For your information, at size of an atom is measured in what is called angstrom. Okay? Sorry, I'm trying to teach a little bit, which is possibly to great people. I'm sorry for that. And this is a unit. If I know what is called millimeter, somebody talked about millimeters in terms of rainfall. 1,000th of a millimeter is a micrometer. 1,000th of a micrometer is called nanometer. And 1/10th of a nanometer is called angstrom. That is the size of an atom. That means, you see, it is like 1 by the side you put 10 zeros. That is the size of an atom in terms of millimeters, if you want to talk. And those atoms, when they come together and form a structure, the structural dimensions, we try to see them using these microscopes. And when somebody looked at this piece, they suddenly found out that there are something interesting there, that it has what are called carbon nanotubes in them. Carbon nanotube is something which people have discovered in 1990. Until then, nobody knew what it means by carbon nanotube. Now, all the scientists are chemists, metallurgists like that. We are all excited about it. And a lot of great properties of that carbon nanotubes, people talk about it. And it has become very important subject. And a lot of applications have come out of it. But what is interesting is a steel that was made 2000 years back had those nano structures inside the steel. How did somebody know at that particular point of time? Was it accidental or was it deliberately embedded into the steel? Did they have the technology to make a carbon nanostructure and embed it into a steel? This is something which is fascinating. For a metallurgist like me, I really feel elated when I see. But what I feel what is more relevant now is to see how do we inculcate this knowledge to our current students. Those who, the moment you talk of heritage, they don't think great about that. Nationalistic feeling that we talk about when we talk about Bharatiyata. Okay? Bharatiyata is all about our heritage. Okay? And our heritage, this is the essence of our heritage. Our heritage is not just religion. People talked about where religion stops, spirituality starts there. Okay? And that's the spirituality that great Maharshis talked about it. And with that spiritual angle, they were able to think many things that are much beyond Varaha Mihira. Just now, Kalyan Chakravarti Garu talked about it. All these great scientists, whether you talk about starting from Bhaskara, Aryabhatta, every one of them. Incidentally, all our hostels in IIT Hyderabad are all named after these people. I told my students, we should put only such names whose name every day you see the board and you hear. You should be able to feel proud to have come from such a country, that you belong to such a country. But what is more important is, what do I do for that country? What am I doing to bring out that knowledge and take that glory to the rest of the world? And with that intention, we started 5 Sanskrit courses at IIT Hyderabad to begin with. I said, let every student of IIT Hyderabad learn Sanskrit. Right now I can say 300, 400, 500 students. It's voluntary. We don't force anybody. But there are students who are coming forward. We started with Samskrita Bharati. Many of you possibly know. Samskrita Bharati is a Delhi-based organization, but it has branches all over the country. They teach Sanskrit. So that is how we have started Sanskritam at IIT Hyderabad. But what was my interest is you should put it at different levels so that the student, by the time he goes to the 5th course, that his grammar or her grammar should be so strong that you should be able to open a scripture and understand the science behind it. My interest as a scientist is only to look at every one of these Vedas from a scientific perspective and to bring the science. Whether you talk about Vedic mathematics to Vedic metallurgy or physics, astronomy, and name anything. Every field, I think our people have touched every part of science. And there is a lot to learn, possibly. There is more to bring that out and possibly convert it into technologies and made useful for the humankind of current generations. With that interest, we sat with the Samskrita Bharati team and made 5 courses of different levels, starting from Patatu Samskritam, Vadatu Samskritam onwards, to go to a level where you become strong in the grammar. Okay? So, because I strongly believe that the moment you translate a scripture from Sanskrit to English or Telugu or anything, the essence is lost. Because it all is limited by the knowledge of the person and the perspective from which that person who is translating is looking at it. If you want to know the essence, you have to see the original scripture. You have to read the original scripture. But unfortunately, Sanskrit has gone out of our syllabus in most of, still in some schools up to 10th class. I studied up to 10th class. Sanskritam was a compulsory course in my, but I don't think it exists anymore in every one of the schools now. So it is important that we should inculcate that knowledge so that we create students who may be able to take. At IIT Hyderabad, we always felt like doing experiments. For example, while you all, I do not know how many of your children have studied engineering. They all do BTech in mechanical, BTech electrical, BTech computer science and so on and so forth. And I felt that all these boundaries are drawn by us. Science is all one thing. When I go to the level of an atom, I do not know whether I am talking of chemistry or physics. All of them merge at the atomic level. So there is nothing called separately chemistry or physics. So we created a BTech branch, which we call it as BTech in Engineering Sciences. And we told students that you pick up any courses of your choice for 4 years. What courses you do is your choice. I will not intervene in your decision, and do whatever you want to do. This is something that we have introduced at IIT Hyderabad, which no other institution in the country has such an undergraduate program. This is either typically mechanical, computer science and so on and so forth. But at the level of +2, after completing intermediate, what does student know the difference between mechanical or electrical or computer science? Just because somebody says there are more jobs or more salary, take this, and the student takes that. We say let the student freely get educated the way they want to get educated. At the end of 4 years, you decide what you want to become. The freedom is yours. We started this. We also felt that education should move in a direction where anybody in any corner of the world wants to learn something. If there is somebody who has the knowledge at some other corner of the world, can we connect these two people? Once upon a time, India was known to be a Vishwa Guru. People used to come to India. Nalanda, Takshashila, we all talk about this. People from various countries come to India. And we started thinking, can we not become once again Vishwa Guru with a modern knowledge, modern technology that we have. What is the modern technology? That Kalyan Chakravarti Garu, sitting in Australia, was able to talk to us. We were able to see him and listen to him. Thanks to COVID. If COVID has done something good for us, I would say it is this it has done. What is called the online education that we talk about. Now, what we have done in our IIT is converted all classrooms into hybrid classrooms. We will have a few students sitting in the class physically. We will have a few students on the screen. Listening to me, I am writing on the board. He sees what is I am writing on the board. He or she can directly ask me questions. And it is a live, as if the person is inside the class physically, though he or she is not there physically. We now started asking our faculty, whatever course that you are teaching, can you make it open to an outsider? If you say yes, we will put it on our website that this is the course available, this is the content of the course, this is the professor who is going to teach the course, this is the timetable. Anybody from any corner of the world, if the timetable suits you, you can register for that course. In India so far, just to learn one subject, you have to register for a degree. Without registering for a degree, you can't learn a single subject. We said, why should we restrict them? The moment you have to register for a degree, then the next question comes, what entrance examination you have written? Okay? We said, let us remove all these barriers. I said, anybody can learn as long as you want to learn. And if a teacher is willing to teach, we will connect you. Now at IIT Hyderabad, we have 15 courses running like this, where anybody from any country, whether it is Australia or Romania or Egypt, does not matter. You can register for just one course. It could be astronomy, it could be metallurgy, it could be some other course. As long as I am willing to make my course available to an outsider. And I also said, let us remove these barriers of who can register for this course. I said it can be a student, it can be a professor of a university, it can be a working professional somewhere, it can be even a homemaker, it can even be a 80-year-old man or a woman. They just one course on psychology I want to learn, or one course on the so-called AI, artificial intelligence I want to learn. I don't want to do a degree in artificial intelligence. Just want to know what is it. Okay, I know about my intelligence. Everybody is now talking about artificial intelligence. Can I just know what is all about it? So I tell my colleagues that do not control the entry, control only the exit. Ultimately, IIT is going to give a certificate that you have done this course with these many credits and this is the grade you have got. And I said, as long as your course is tough enough that everybody who takes this course does not pass the exam, just because somebody is paying, we charge them. Please, this is not free. Okay, we charge 5,000 rupees per course, which is not very high in current generation. And we said, just because somebody pays that 5,000, he should not be made to pass. Ultimately, it is IIT certificate you are getting. So let the student pass. If your course is good enough that everybody, unless he or she puts in enough efforts, they won't pass. That should be our yardstick. Rather than conducting an entrance examination, shortlisting people and taking them. I teach thermodynamics. If an electrical engineer wants to join my course to learn thermodynamics, what is my problem? If that person has interest in learning it, he is willing to put efforts to learn it and pass my course, I am fine with it. So this is the first time in the country an institution has gone to a level to say, let us teach the whole world. Let us become a Vishwa Guru. So this kind of experiments we have been doing, and did one more experiment. We said, let us start a Department of Heritage Science and Technology. This is the first institute possibly among engineering institutions in the country which has a department of heritage, science and technology. And what did we do? We have faculty members who are interested in heritage. They are all faculty either in computer science department. There are faculty who work on Panini grammar, sitting in computer science department, sitting in AI department. Such people are there. There are people who are in mathematics, who are possibly interested in Vedic mathematics. We have brought all these people together and created what we call it as a virtual department. There is no faculty I have recruited for heritage science department. No. There are faculty of other departments, but because of their interest in heritage, they jumped into it. We have 15 faculty members associated with this department. And 10 more faculty members from various countries who said, wow, you have started a heritage, I am interested in heritage. I want to become an adjunct faculty with your institute. We made them adjunct faculty. And we have now a department with 25 faculty members. And we started an MTech in heritage science and technology. We have an MTech program, master's program running. What do we teach here? We start with what is the science behind Indian languages? The so-called Indic languages, people say, which are significantly different. Example, I always said this when I was a school child. PUT put, CUT cut. Why is this difference? Nobody can explain from the so-called people who have ruled us for 500 years. There is no scientific basis in this. Our language has a very strong scientific basis. It is phonetic. You say what you write. This is the beauty of Indian language. So what is the science behind Indian language? Then we said, what is the science behind yoga? Is there a science behind yoga? And there are people who are looking what is called fMRI, functional MRI, EEG, and technologies like that to understand your state of mind when you are sitting and meditating. Is there anything that is happening? Are there any changes in the neurons in your mind? Okay, when you meditate. Can I look at it from a scientific perspective? And if I know that if meditation calms me down, something must be happening in my brain which can be measured. And if I can come up with this understanding, I can convert it into a technology and make people the so-called balanced. For example, what we call it as the Yoga Shastra, Ashtanga Yoga. Okay? The Ashtanga Yoga of Patanjali. Okay? The final stage is called Samadhi. If you carefully understand the word the Samadhi, I do not want to tell to people like it, with the limited knowledge that I have, it is Sama plus Dhi. Dhi is your mind. Dhiyo yona prachodayatu is what we say. Sama is equanimity. The whole universe is in equilibrium, the balanced condition. Samadhi is nothing but a balanced mind. Yoga will lead you to a balanced mind, is what the Yoga Shastra talks about. And if balanced mind is something everyone needs, in my own, even a child needs a balanced mind. If he is preparing for a IIT exam tomorrow and one of his friend comes and says, let's go for a movie, he needs to take a decision. What is right, what is wrong? Viveka. Viveka is nothing but that. What is right, what is wrong? And that Viveka comes only with balance. If there is no balance, there is no Viveka. So, as a result, that balance is something that we need to create. We need to teach. And if that is the thing that we can learn by studying the scientific aspects of yoga, we can possibly make it for the whole world as a science rather than something mystic. People still look at yoga as a mystic thing. Can we look at it completely scientific? Then the third thing that we started are our architecture, Indian architecture. Looking at it from a scientific. very close to Hyderabad. If we go to the Ramappa temple, the whole temple is made of bricks which are porous. I take a piece of brick, put it in water, it floats in water. But hundreds of years, it was standing there. Rain, heat, all of them, it stood. And it is so strong. How is that we are able to make? What was the science behind it? In fact, I told my Department of Heritage faculty, and possibly in 1 year, if you come to IIT Hyderabad, you will see that. I said, I want to have a heritage building in the campus. 500 years back, there was no electricity. Okay? There was no electricity, we all know. But still, they used to construct houses which have sufficient light entering into the house without an electricity. And similarly, there was no air conditioning. We are all now got used to air conditioning so much. Okay? But still the houses used to be cool enough. It does not mean that there was no summer those days. Summer was still there. Vijayawada definitely would have been 40 degrees. Vijayawada is called Blazewada. And that's why it has become Bejawada. So that means it was a Blazewada even hundreds of years back. But still, they had the way to make their houses in such a way that they are not hot inside. Can we use those technologies? So we are now going to construct a building. The model is almost ready and the estimate is being prepared. I am going to go with that to a few donors who will give me the money to build that building. And our goal is to put the whole of Indian heritage inside that building. It will be a museum of Indian heritage. It will have seminar rooms like this where you discuss heritage. Okay? And that's our plan. Next year, if you see, you will have that. Then we also looked at Indian medicine. Ayurveda, Siddha. People say that for certain chronic diseases, allopathy possibly does not have an answer, but possibly some of the Indian medicines have an answer. But again, many people look at these things as a one-off things rather than a systematic medicine. Okay? Modern science goes by testing it in a number of cases and looking at the statistics and say, yes, if I say it works in 99% of the cases. And for that, we need to look at it scientifically. The whole process of Ayurveda, when a medicine, for example, in Ayurveda, people say arsenic is a medicinal material. Arsenic is a poison that I know. A chemist will say arsenic is poison, mercury is poison. But how mercury is being used as a medicine? That means some change in the form is being achieved by some process. They say putam. When you put it into a putam, something must be happening. Can I understand what is the change that is happening? What are the characteristics that are changing? We are studying that. We teach that at IIT Hyderabad now. The fourth topic is on music. Musical instruments. There is so much of science behind Indian musical instruments. Again, we started looking at. So like that, what I want to tell you, friends, the purpose of my coming here is not to just give a lecture. To tell that together, there is a need for us to come together. You have an immense knowledge of the Vedas. We don't have. But I want you to tell us, okay, that Vedas talk about this. These are the scientific aspects which appear to me as interesting. But can you take this up and implement it in your lab and demonstrate to the whole world? I am willing to do that. IIT Hyderabad is willing to do this. There are faculty members who are interested. In fact, we have recently, one of our colleagues went to a place where they are doing a homam to study the whole thing. We used to say that if you do homam, rains will come. People strongly believe there must be a scientific reason. If it has really happened, there must be a scientific reason. That means certain things that are coming out of the Homagundam must be going like rain, cloud seeding we talk about, must be seeding the cloud and causing the rain to fall. If I understand what is coming out using a spectroscopy, gas chromatography, we have all these things that are available with us. Just we want a collaboration. This cannot be done either by you directly or by me simply, unless we come together. There is a need to come together. And this is the right time. I feel already we have gone through a lot of years of period where we lost self-confidence. It's important that all of us together to bring that self-confidence back into our young generation, that they feel proud to be an Indian, proud to be born in India, born in Bharat. And that is something which I feel I want to urge all of you. I was requesting, if needed, I will come once again to have a group discussion only on the scientific aspects of this, because that is the only thing that we know. If needed, I would request, I will bring my faculty here from the Heritage Department. If you can bring your faculty to IIT Hyderabad, okay, we can have a half a day discussion and see how we can work together. That's all I wanted to say, friends. Thank you very much. Thanks for this opportunity.